Welcome back to the Nikki Clarke Radio Show. The show is about conversations that matter, and we invite people from all walks of life to come and share their heart stories, stories of upliftment and transformation. And I have yet another stellar individual on the line. She is the founder of the Condo Owners Association, the COA, and she's a force to reckon with. Please welcome Linda Pinizzotto. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm doing great, Nikki. How are you keeping?
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for contacting us. It's wonderful, especially right now. You know, it's such an ideal time to give out these inspirational messages. So I really sincerely appreciate your show, and you're doing volumes of goodwill to everyone out there. So it's very appreciative.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate your kind words. So, Linda, tell us about your background leading up to where you are now as the founder of the COA.
Well, it's kind of interesting. My background goes, if I go back many years ago, I come from a family of single mom who was just incredible, very kind-hearted, beautiful woman. The business sense from my dad, but my mom was the one that really was able to push forward, and I sort of, make me understand growing up that you really have to give back as much as you can. So even though it was very hard times for her, we grew up at Jane and Finch, the corridor. It wasn't easy. And, it's a case where everyone, you dig deep, and there's just much inside all of us. We just need to find where it is and what our mission is and where our mindset is. So very young, I got into real estate, started becoming very involved in families, of course. I've been in the business now for 40 years, but I guess I've always been involved in nonprofits, always involved in volunteering my time. And I had 20 years of if I go back to the Condo Owners Association, I had 20 years of being a president of a board of directors. And, while our operations were running beautifully, I found that, being involved in the realtor world, I saw struggles that we continuously had just trying to work within the condominium atmosphere with property management and looking at the maintenance fees and just a number of things that I think at the time in 2010, I didn't believe that the provincial government had updated the act. Well, we can get into that a little bit more, and it was time to sort of step forward and say, okay, fine, you know what, I've got the knowledge, I've got the ability, so what I need to do is notify, sit down, speak with the Ministry of Government Consumer Services and tell them to take a look at the 1998 Condominium Act, which was so ridiculously outdated that it wasn't looking after or protecting anybody any further. So there's a complete mouthful. I was trying to figure out how much further back I go, but it's interesting. I've sat 8 years as a director and vice president of the real estate boards and the sports councils and volunteering in children's sports. So there are all of these things. I think that anybody, men or women, every type of volunteer work that we give out there helps in any which way that you're involved.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's about connecting. It's about empowering people. And from what I'm hearing, this is something that you've been doing from a very early age, lending that from the values from your mother and also what you've learned from your father, and made you the woman you are, which is amazing. So with the company that you founded, who naturally gravitates to you, or what are some of the services you offer and the clients you have?
What happens is that when I created the Condo Owners Association was actually in March of 2010. We've just had our 10th year, and the biggest reason is to offer long-term, the ability to have a longer-term sustainability in the condominium world. And by saying that, it represents the 1.7 million condo owners we have here in Ontario as a voice, a united front. Now, sadly, what we're finding is if you look at the various demographics, there was a time when the baby boomers didn't want to have conflicts in their condo buildings because, they were too busy for one thing, raising families and so on, but they didn't want to get into the arguments with board of directors and property managers. And then for the longest time, the millennials were kind of in a different lifestyle of enjoying life. But now I used to always say to the ministry that one day when all of this changes and there's going to be more push on getting it done right, is going to be through the voice of the millennials. So because the changes are important. You know, one thing I can throw out there to the audience really around the world is that as maintenance fees increase abnormally, like, you know, for instance, 10%, 15, 20, 25, 30%, if they're increasing drastically like that, there is definitely something wrong going on in your condominium. And, you know, a lot of people don't want to look at it. They want to turn their head and say, no, everything's fantastic, because nobody wants to insult, you know, the property that they own. You know, it's home ownership. You have to be proud of home ownership. But the problem is when maintenance fees get out of control, the values do not go up properly. They actually take a reduction. And with that reduction in value comes lower tax bases. You know, here in Ontario, they do taxes based on assessment. So, you know, because it's all about affordability. You know, so being involved, you know, when you own, for instance, and when I talk about condos, we're not always talking about high rises. You know, we're also talking about low rises, strip malls, industrial, commercial types of land where it's a condo corporation, but the houses are freehold. You know, there's 5 different types of condominiums out there.
Excellent. And how has this pursuit of your passion work, how has that transformed your life, Linda?
In the sense of, I'm sorry, it's a little bit hard on hearing that one. What was it?
The work that you're involved in, your philanthropic work, and also the founder of the COA, in pursuit of your passion work, how has that transformed your life?
Well, it's transformed it because, like, we're getting in date. It is volunteer. Nobody that's involved, including myself, get paid for anything related to the COA. I funded it personally to get it off the ground. And I find that, you know, although we want to give a lot of goodwill, which is exactly what we're doing, we're getting inundated with the amount of complaints that are coming from condo owners. It's astounding. It is so astounding. The type of things that are happening out there, and, you know, it's tough for me not to use a word of, I'm not going to use corruption. I think it's just too strong. But the fact that so many people are being taken advantage of within the condominiums, you see there's a disconnect. Let me go back. There's a disconnect. And the disconnect is, on one side, you have the condo owners. And they just want to live gracefully in their homes, enjoy it, decorate it, do all the lovely things. On the other side, you have the board of directors and the property management. The sad part about it is yes, the provincial government now has stepped forward to implement new legislation, and they've got more governing bodies like the CAO and the CMRAO. Unfortunately, many of these board members and property management companies, what they've done is they know the rules, they know the guidelines, and they still play the nonsense games. There's just way too much control. There's too much power tripping. And some of the sad things that we see, especially some of them directed to seniors, is heart-wrenching. So, you know, the amount of complaints that we get, not just about rising maintenance fees, but I mean about they're being treated, about the way they're being treated, about the fact that they can't access condo corporation documents, about the fact that now all of a sudden these condominium corporations prefer to do electronic voting. Why? Because they don't want people at the annual general meetings. The provincial government needs to mandate it that every single condo owner needs to be at the annual general meeting one time a year. If they can't make it, they can delegate a family member, a friend, but somebody needs to be in the room to protect their interest. Because when you're off-site and you're doing electronic voting, okay, it's a wishy-washy way of voting for things you don't know. It's a wishy-washy. It doesn't allow the board to be accountable. It doesn't make everybody explain exactly. I mean, if you bought something from Best Buy and it wasn't working, you'd drive over there, even if it was $30, and you would go exchange it. Meanwhile, you don't even pay attention to what's going on in your condo corporation. Because you don't even take the time once a year to go to an annual general meeting, ask questions, challenge the auditor's reports, challenge the expenses, find out why your maintenance fees are increasing so badly. How come things aren't being looked at? There are so many contracts that are being used by condo corporations that are way overpriced, especially in refurbishments. The refurbishment ticket is insane, and there's no guarantees on whether or not the actual products that they're using, are sustainable. I've seen condo corporations spend $100,000 on new locks, and meanwhile they break down a year and a half later because they keep quality, and they don't have the ability to withstand the length of time that they need to kind of gain control as to where your reserve funds are, so you don't start spending way too much money on reserve funds. Condos, you know what, Nikki? Condos are such a complicated home ownership.
Really?
They're very complicated, and people need to understand what their rights are. They need to know their rights before they even buy into a condo corporation. And if and I'm not saying that all board members or property management are bad. Do I think some are power tripping? 1,000%. Do I feel that there needs to be much more harmony and goodwill within the building? Speaking of goodwill, you have no idea how nasty some condo owners are, even behind the Airbnb concept. And then on top of it, you've got a group called Airbnb who are literally attacking the whole Airbnb concept. And now, of course, in Toronto, for instance, they're mandating rules now that an owner can't use, an owner that doesn't live in the building can't use their property. They own it. They pay their maintenance fees. They pay their taxes. They pay their mortgages. But now they're being restricted to use it for Airbnb. However, if somebody went and tented, say they rented an Airbnb, they rented it from you, you're an owner, you don't live in the unit, you've rented that out to someone else, that person, even though you may not approve of it, and it is your property, they will be allowed to use your property as an Airbnb because they're a tenant living in the building.
Wow. And this is all amazing information. Really, and I really appreciate how you just kind of laid it all out, just matter-of-factly, because really people need to know what they're going into. And from what I understand, people are going in and making mistakes because they didn't have all that preparation ahead of time before they make that commitment into the ownership. So it's wonderful that you've been able to share that. And this information is also available if people were to contact you on social media or set up a meeting with you, you'd be available to provide this as well. Is that correct?
Well, we have, the COA, we have 3 websites that are active. We have a COA Ontario. There's like 280,000 people that have hit the website.
Wow.
We have COA Mississauga and COA Toronto. .com, all of them are .com, and they have roughly about 270,000 people that have also gone on sites. The sites give every single link for a condo owner to go out and submit their complaint to the CAO, the Regulatory Condo Authority of Ontario, or the CMRAO, the Condo Management Regulatory Authority, if they're having major problems with property management companies. The problem with that theory, though, is that you as an owner, if there's so not to get distracted, so anybody can go online and find out any information they need. We've got every link you can possibly imagine taking you right to identify who your MPP would be in the neighborhood, who your counselors are, all the links. You don't have to start searching government websites. COA Ontario, either one of the 3, will even give you some audio recordings of videos and different things, different concerns that we have, proposals that we have actually sent out. We spent a lot of time. We were involved heavily with the Ministry of Government Consumer Services, the Fire Marshal's review. really pushing hard through the home protection in order for property management companies, property managers to be licensed. Can you imagine that they were never licensed all those years that they oversee the operations
I have no idea.
within a condominium corporation? Is that got to be the most insane thing you've ever heard?
Absolutely.
And then, you're talking about budgets that are, over $1 million a year, and meanwhile, board of directors have no way of educating themselves. So now, of course, because of the COA and the hard push that we put on, changes since 2010, they now have mandatory courses. But that doesn't stop, certain property managers from still playing games, or board of directors, because I'll give you a perfect example. We received a report where a woman, she was on the board of directors, couldn't be bothered to do her mandatory courses, quoted that she's too busy. So therefore, the CAO found out about it. She had to step down and resign, only for the board to appoint her back onto the position again.
Wow.
So she's back on the board. So it's a loophole. So the ministry has to, the CAO, they have to stop the loophole. If somebody doesn't have the interest to go and do their courses for 6 months, they're given the period of time, yet then the board appoints them back in. What are the board is actually going to do? Is that someone who's interested, or are they just trying to make sure they have that additional vote for a majority vote?
Right.
You see, the board, even if there's a board of 5 members, all they need is 3 people to agree with one another. So what needs to happen is the provincial government needs to step in and change it, make 7 people as board members, and stop the manipulation of 3 board members.
Okay, excellent. All right. Also,
it's points being thrown out there. It's and I hope I'm not confusing the audience, because I am jumping on things that sort of hit me in my mind. But that in particular, you've got to have sincerity and goodwill and the truth of the reason why. Like, why are you donating your time to be a board member?
Well, you're putting in the time, but you're not. Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully it's for goodwill and not for control and power tripping and manipulating budgets and everything else. Like, I mean, the problem is that if condo owners do not go to AGMs and they do not pay attention to what the condo corporation is doing, meaning the board of directors, the decisions they're making, ask questions, make them accountable.
Absolutely. Linda, can you, before we close today, and I want to say thank you so much for all your wonderful sharing. It was very, very informative, and I really hope everyone goes and visits your social media contacts and sets up, meetings with you. But I wanted to address what we're all globally experiencing right now with the COVID-19 situation. People are really challenged. What message of hope would you offer to people listening now?
The message of hope is absolutely, all of us worldwide, to much of the degree we live in fear. It's important for everyone to make sure they do stay at home, listen to every single report that their politicians are giving them to keep everybody safe. Sometimes, people don't always want to kind of accept the terms so quickly, because they figure, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm healthy, nothing's going to happen to me. I hear a statement all the time, it's for old people, and these kind of nonsense comments. We are all vulnerable. We are living human beings, and, we're being, we've got a virus that still doesn't have a resolution of any kind of cure. We have health workers out there. If people are too busy thinking about themselves and not thinking about others because they're now in their house and they're feeling safe, they still need to keep their heart open to the frontliners, the emergency cares, the hospitals, the doctors. The nurses, even the cleaners, even anybody that's out there and about, because they're in a forced position of working under these circumstances. And yes, granted, there's plexiglass behind your clerk, whether it's a food service person or who it is. you still have to remember it's got to be given in our mind, embedded in our mind, that we need to keep it close to our heart and remember that, hey, we need to keep a safe distance, period, subject closed. Yes. There is no ifs, buts about it. I don't understand what the confusion is of people that don't listen. It makes no sense. The writing is on the wall, the facts are proven, everybody knows it's here, so let's try to work together and get through it and be smart. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
And in condominiums, have to talk about condos very quickly. Yes, there's elevators. Yes, you've got, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Even if you limit the amount, put one person at a time, you're still using the buttons. You're still using the railings. You're still, in a multifamily dwelling. No, it doesn't necessarily come from out-of-country people and travelers, which a lot of these condo owners want to start throwing blame at. It could come from the unit owner right next door to you who you talk to and see every single day.
Yes.
There's no nameplate on the virus. So stop throwing daggers at people from other countries and people coming in and people that are here because they have to leave their homes and come and work in Toronto and they need a place to live, so they do live in an Airbnb. But those are the ones that are cautious about it. Maybe a long-term person that's living there, the tenant isn't cautious. So how anybody can start putting, comments, negative comments about individuals and attacks is just, it isn't the way that God has shown us that we need to live. We need to live with an open heart, and we need to help each other where we can. And that's my message. So
wonderful.
I hope
Thank
it
you
helps.
so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Linda. Linda, I really appreciate your time, and can you please tell us how we can connect with you on social media?
Absolutely. I'm just at Linda Pinizzotto. I'm kind of all over being in real estate. When you've been around for that while. So yes, just on LinkedIn. It's just my last name, Linda. Pinizzotto. So that's on my Facebook, on my LinkedIn. There's 2 actually different LinkedIn accounts, and we have 26 different Twitter accounts. So if people could please go in and tweet your feed. COA Ontario, COA Toronto. There's 26 different cities all across Ontario that have a Twitter account. So love to hear the comments back, support your local community, and maybe the best way to have a message is with people like yourself, Nikki, who take the time to put information awareness out there, because we can't depend on property management board of directors to give those messages. We need to put them in the COA. They need to take advantage of all the websites and all the social feeds that we take, voice their opinion, and just make yourselves be heard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's it. 2020. That's what people need to do nowadays. It's 2020. Voice your opinion. Don't be concerned. You can't do it in your building. I understand that. You may feel that you get retribution, which unfortunately some people do get, but you can do it socially. So take advantage of it.
Wonderful. Powerful message. Thank you so much, Linda Pinizzotto, founder of COA. Really appreciate your time, and thank you very, very much. You've been listening to the Nikki Clarke Radio Show, and it's about conversations that matter, and we had a wonderful interview with Linda Pinizzotto. Linda, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll connect again soon. So stay strong and stay safe.
To you too. Love to. Absolutely, Nikki. You take care. All the best.
Okay, take care. Bye for now.
Bye-bye now.